All right, I think we're live. So as people start to join here, very excited to have folks joining from across Canada and all over the world. Maybe you could leave a little comment in the chat where you're joining from and what you're most excited to hear about today. So as folks join, we'll have you leave a little message in the chat and let us know where you're joining from and what you're most excited to hear about today. Awesome. Got a few coming in, some from Toronto. Very good. We're going to be starting shortly here once everyone's on board. We've got a great show ahead of us today. Lots of health tech companies. We're going to see what's coming up in the next few years in hospitals and clinics, and have some great conversation with our excellent funders and founders today. Okay, we have folks from New York, from Muskoka, several people from Toronto. That's great. Hello, Toronto. Yes. More people coming in. Excellent. From Smith Falls. That's nice. For those of you just joining, we're about to get started here. We're just welcoming people. Leave a note in the chat where you're joining from, and we're going to get started shortly. We have folks across Canada, the US, California, Montreal. Let us know as well what are you most excited to hear about today? Any particular companies that catch your eye? Today we're going to hear from mostly health tech companies. So a lot of applications in clinics, in hospitals. We're excited to see where the future lies. Garage is joining from Toronto as well and has an automation company, which is awesome. Lots of AI to discuss today as well, so very exciting.
Hello and welcome to MAXPitch, a high-stakes reality show where visionary founders pitch trailblazing business ideas to a panel of seasoned investors, the funders. Entrepreneurs from all industries are carefully selected for a chance to impress the funders with their groundbreaking ideas and sharp business acumen. Will they secure the coveted funds and mentorship to turn their dreams into a breakthrough? Stay tuned to find out. We have an amazing program lined up for you today, so sit back, grab your coffee and your notepad because you won't want to miss the superstar lineup of founders and funders we have in store. This month, our theme is health tech. So let's go ahead and introduce the founders. First founder is Daniel Lekhat from Tabiat AI, predicting hospitalizations with AI-focused remote care. Next, we have Shazia Akbar from Ocare AI. Ocare is transforming how dental care is practiced through the power of AI and imaging. Third founder is Fawaz Siddiqui from Actic AI, aiming to assess and improve clinical performance to return patients requiring rehab to work faster and healthier. And last but not least, we have Miraj Ali from DigiBiomics. DigiBiomics uses AI to provide precise diagnosis of lung diseases, enhancing patient care and wellness. All right, let's introduce the funders. First, we have Bilal Khan from Intuition Capital. Bilal brings with him 2 decades of experience in finance, business, technology, and law, and is currently the managing partner of We Shall Investments, a premier private equity firm with a portfolio of investments across North America and the Caribbean. With a proven track record as an operator, advisor, and investor, Bilal is responsible for leading the firm's overall management, steering the growth of its portfolio companies, and guiding new investments. Bilal is passionate about technology, entrepreneurship, and startup growth. He's an angel investor in over 30 early-stage technology startups across North America, which have grown to be sector leaders and disruptors in their respective industries, some companies of which have grown even to well over $1 billion in equity value. Next, we have Becca Schmuckler from Lerdal Million Lives Fund. Becca is an investor with the LMLF, which is a $100 million healthcare venture fund investing in seed Series A digital health and medical device companies that help save lives. Portfolio companies include Boulder Care, Aviv Solutions, CardioSense, NovoCuff, and many others. Becca was a founding member of the LMLF team when she joined in 2020 and has worked in the healthcare industry for her entire career. Prior to LMLF, Becca worked for the healthcare consultancy, advisory board company, price transparency and care navigation startup Castlight Health, and digital health venture fund Rock Health, primarily in business development and partnership roles. Next, we have Kareem Masarani, Amzak Capital Management. Kareem joined Amzak Health in 2022 and focuses on medical devices and digital health. Kareem comes to Amzak with over 15 years of industry experience in life sciences across multiple sectors and functional areas. Prior to Amzak, Kareem was at Merck, where he led commercial business development for diagnostics, as well as established and managed the digital and AI-based diagnostics commercial portfolio in oncology. Prior to Merck Oncology, Kareem led corporate strategy for Merck's animal health division, where he formulated long-term strategy and supported large-scale M&A. Prior to Merck, Kareem was at Dentsply Sirona, where he worked in both business development and R&D. And he began his career as an R&D engineer at Becton and Dickinson. And last but not least, we have Rama Chakaki from Transform VC. Rama's passion is at the intersection of impact and tech investing. She's a technology professional with over 30 years of experience in media, telecom, edtech, fintech, and AI. She's a partner at Transform VC, which is a firm on a mission to unlock the potential of our community's tech entrepreneurs to make $1 billion and impact $1 billion. Rama took on a COO role at Explain, an AI startup on a mission to deeply democratize AI. Explain is co-founded and funded by Transform VC. She also co-founded VIP.Fund, a nonprofit incubating technologies to empower 2,500 plus marginalized youth. Rama was featured in Forbes Arabia, Arab Women Rising, The Power of Presence, and other publications, and is a 2017 TEDx Beacon Street speaker. What a team on the show today. But of course, the show would not be complete without your support, the audience. Thank you so much for your overwhelming enthusiasm and excitement for this show. And don't forget, if you're interested in investing, when we put 60 seconds on the clock after each company presents, audience members can type the word INVEST in the chat, or click on the center window and fill out the investment interest form. While the full interactive experience is only available live, recorded episodes each month will be made available as well. And we're always looking to add more founders and funders to our arsenal. So if you want to be on the show, click the link on the screen or share with your exceptional founders and funders in your own networks as well. Who knows, maybe we'll see you on the next one. All right, without any further ado, I'm your guest host, Malik Albatarni, and this is MAXPitch.
All right, and we're live. Hello and welcome to everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of MAXPitch, where our trailblazing founders put their best foot forward to try to secure funds from our panel of seasoned investors and hopefully bring their ideas to life. So I am super humbled and excited to be with this group of funders today. This month's theme is health tech. So if you're curious about what's coming down the pipeline for hospitals and clinics near you, I think you're really going to love this episode. And I'm very excited as well. So I'm your guest host, Malik Albatarni. I'm a resident cardiac surgeon at the University of Toronto. I'm also a scientist completing a PhD in biomarker translational research and multi-omic big data. So I was certainly thrilled at the opportunity to guest host this show. And when I got a look at some of these companies, I was certainly very excited as well. And most importantly, I'm very humbled to be sitting here alongside these outstanding, accomplished individuals. So maybe we'll start with some of our funders. If you could let us know where you're joining from, and since we've just wrapped up the Olympics, if you could be professional at any extreme sport, what would be your choice? Okay, let's start with Bilal.
I was hoping you weren't going to call on me first. The easy part is Toronto. The extreme sport. I'm going to go with like dirt bike riding. So I don't know if that's extreme enough, but I feel like that's something I'd love to do.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, and welcome, Becca. Thank you so much for joining us. If you could let us know from your side.
I am joining from Atlanta, Georgia, and I know it wasn't part of the Summer Olympics, but I think I would do ski jumping.
Okay, awesome. You'll have to come up to Canada to do that, though.
Yep.
All right. And Kareem, where are you joining us from?
I am joining from the New York metropolitan area in New Jersey, and I would have, it's not extreme, but it's the one I love the most, which is basketball, but I was never too tall or skilled enough to do it.
Well, I mean, some basketball can certainly be pretty extreme, so that sounds like a good choice. Okay, and last but not least, Rama Chikaki, thank you for joining us again. Where are you joining us from?
Thank you. Hermosa Beach, California, very extension of LA. And given that I love the beach, I think it'll have to be swimming, nothing extreme there.
All right. Good weather and good swimming. That sounds like a nice day. Okay, so we'll bring up our agenda for the episode today. You're going to have a chance to hear from each of the 4 excellent companies. They're going to give you their take on why we should be investing in their technology. We're going to hear from each of the funders and hear some questions. And feel free as the audience as well. We'd love to hear your questions in the chat, and we'll try to pick on some of them to get them part of the discussion as well. And once we've heard from each of the companies, there'll be 60 seconds on the clock, and this is where it gets serious. So this will be your chance to make a final decision, each of the funders, whether you're going to be in or out, and what your reasoning for being supportive for each of these companies as well. So it's a great show. You're going to have some excellent companies to potentially support, and hopefully we'll get some support from the audience as well. So without any further ado, we'll welcome our first company, which is going to be Digibiomics and Dr. Miraj Khan. And Digibiomics uses advanced AI to analyze X-ray images, enabling early and accurate diagnoses of lung diseases. It's an AI-driven platform, and it enhances diagnostic accuracy, providing healthcare professionals with reliable tools for informed decision-making. So we're very excited to hear your presentation, and let's have it.
Thank you. Thank you for that. It's good to go.
You're good to go.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So I'm going to correlate the question you asked to investors. The sports is very much correlated with lung wellness. Our lung is strong, then we can have a great stamina. So thank you very much. Lung diseases are silent epidemic and the leading cause of death, claiming over 6 million lives globally. 6 million lives globally each year. Hello, everyone. My name is Miraj Khan. I'm a biotechnologist and clinical scientist with over 15 years of experience in clinical research on lung diseases. Throughout my career, I have published numerous findings in top-notch scientific journals, and I have witnessed the gap between research findings and their translation into patient care. My passion has always been to innovate precise diagnostic and treatment solutions for lung disorders. We know, despite advancement in medical technology, accurate diagnosis remains a significant challenge. Misdiagnosis is alarmingly very common. There are reports which states that around 20 to 30% of lung problems like lung cancer, COPD, fibrosis, and many more cases they are being incorrectly identified. So these challenges highlights a critical need for improved diagnostic tools that can enhance precision, reduce misdiagnosis, and ensure timely treatment. Today, with the thanks, I'm really excited to introduce PulmoDeep. PulmoDeep, an advanced tool designed for the precise diagnosis of lung anomalies. PulmoDeep aims to enhance early detection and treatment, ultimately improving patient outcomes. PulmoDeep addresses these critical challenges by ensuring timely and accurate diagnosis, effectively triaging the lung problems, and helping to prevent disease progression. That is something which is making it invaluable for both patients and healthcare systems. My team is my asset. My team is, in fact, the greatest asset for me. We have worked at top-notch research institutions like SickKids. PulmoDeep is supported by a diverse group of experts, including clinical research scientists, lung specialists, engineers, and data scientists, and each bringing valuable experience and subject matter expert to this project. We all know, we are aware of the pandemic which we recently passed. The market for lung disease diagnostic is vast and growing, driven by high prevalence and impacts of conditions like infection, inflammation, COPD, asthma, fibrosis, lung cancer, and many more. With over 6 billion deaths annually and a global focus on early detection and personalized treatment, the demand for advanced diagnostic tools like PulmoDeep is very, very significant. This tool is this tool will be, and I'm going to show this tool will ultimately benefit radiologists, healthcare providers, diagnostic labs, pharmaceutical industries, and even end users who want to track their lung wellness. In conclusion, PulmoDeep is more than just a diagnostic tool. It's a powerful solution designed to save lives, reduce healthcare costs, and set a new standard in lung disease diagnosis. This presents a major opportunity for everyone to innovate and invest in lung disease sector. I invite you all to join us in transforming the future of lung healthcare. Thank you, and I want to request now, let's play the video so that we can walk through how it works, how PulmoDeep works.
Breathe easy. Feel secure. Meet PulmoDeep. PulmoDeep is your personal health companion, designed to predict lung diseases early and accurately using advanced AI technology. It collects anonymized patient data, analyzes it with advanced AI, and delivers detailed disease reports and personalized recommendations through a user-friendly interface. PulmoDeep is designed to detect and monitor a range of pulmonary conditions. It is easy to use. Let us walk through how it works. First, go to the home page and select the prediction model you need. Browse your local files and select the X-ray image you want to analyze. Then, simply upload the image. AI algorithm analyzes the image to provide you with accurate results. You'll receive a detailed report with in-depth analysis. Visit Digibiomics for more information. Take control of your lung health today. Thank you.
Incredible. Okay, so let's start with some questions from our funders. I mean, there's no doubt that lung disease is a big problem these days, and as our population is aging, it's only increasing. So should we start with who'd like to go first?
I have a quick question for Miraj. So there's so many different etiologies of lung disease, like lung cancer, pulmonary fibrosis, and they all have sort of different pathways. So how do you expect to be, for lung cancer, for example, it's more about defining the indeterminate nodules, right? And pulmonary fibrosis is a little bit different. So do you think you're trying to do too much maybe with one algorithm, or do you have the data sets to be able to do both at the same time or multiple indications?
It's really very good question. So thank you for that. So we are trying to build separate models, like you have seen in the demo. So the model for tuberculosis, COPD, fibrosis, ILD, and interstitial. There are even in the ILD, there are many subcategories, and for the lung cancer. And at the end, we're going to bundle up. So one tool will identify and diagnose any lung-related problem. Mm-hmm. And behind this, the algorithm is not just correlation or regression. We are kind of working on causal AI model, which also brings the causality, not just the pattern. And that's our patented kind of algorithm, which we recently patented.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got it.
I have a follow-on question. How are you dealing with hallucination of the models, because this is a problem that some of your competitors out there are facing.
Yeah, so we have seen those hallucinational modeling, and that's what I mentioned in the previous answer. We are bringing causal AI, which will not just assess the correlation and regression if something is high and whether it's related or not, rather the causative factors. I will give a very quick example. Let's say there's a high sale of ice cream and a high sale of sunburn, and both are highly correlated, but the causal is not either one. The causal is hot weather. The same thing we are implementing here, and we are progressing significantly. So definitely will come up that I can explain you later. I don't want to disclose here the whole technical aspect.
Is low dose CT the main input?
So the inputs are like 3 X-ray, HRCT, and even we're going to incorporate the MRIs.
Could you discuss the regulatory path for your product?
That is something which we are considering, because for initial testing and deployment in hospitals, so we are discussing to deploy this tool in Canadian hospitals, retrospective and prospective. But along with that, we're going to definitely bring regulatory approval. Though these are not replacing the clinician, those are as a co-pilot to suggest and help the associated persons, but definitely will go and check that needs or not. But we are kind of ready for taking any regulatory affairs.
Okay. And will you pursue regulatory clearance in Canada? Or are you looking at the US market as well?
So this is a global project which I'm focusing everywhere, but starting is from Canada and US. And we recently we also got a collaboration from Middle East. There's a company which is working on it, so we are collaborating so that we can expand over there too.
Dr. Miraj, great presentation. What I love about health tech companies is the entrepreneurs are so technically competent. And so you build these really incredible solutions to real life problems that have a meaningful impact on people's lives. So congratulations on achieving that. That's amazing. Where I find health tech entrepreneurs sometimes fall short is on the commercialization of that technology, right? Mm-hmm. And it's really about like, how do you get that to market? How do you bring this to the patients? How do you bring it to the end users? It's a challenging exercise in large part because what Becca mentioned, the regulatory hurdles, but also just in terms of like your own skill set and your ability to bring it to market. So can you talk to us a little bit about the commercialization of this technology and what your go-to-market strategy level is?
I agree, and I accept this is not my expert area. So that's what I need: collaboration and team. And with the team, we can grow together and bring this novel technology to serve our community. That is something which I really believe. And in terms of the commercializations, financing, I'm partnering. There is another company in Canada. It's a good company who already have served many hospitals. So I'm partnering to take their help, so that can help me. And I'm also open to get help from your community, from Max and you guys, how we can leverage this to bring to the market. But based on my experience, what I know, maybe I'm wrong. So we're going to target differently. The next step is to deploy in real world scenario that we are working. We are working to collaborate many hospitals in Canada. The second thing, so based on the outcome of that deployment, we're going to bring to the market, and there are potential markets like healthcare institutions, insurance companies, pharmaceutical companies, and the diagnostic companies. So those are our primary goal to target. Along with that, this tool can be also used by end user. Let's say the last week I was having a huge, very, very strong flu. So I can use that device and then kind of screen my level to make sure I'm not neglecting. And as a human, most of the time we neglect our problems. It's okay, it's done. It's just a flu. But that exacerbate after weeks and weeks. So that can be also used at the end. And that is my phase 2. So I'm working on it. I need support from your team and the whole Max team. Along with that, I had a very good collaboration with the other company in Canada. We recently signed LOI and contract. that is going to help me to in that space.
I have one more question. I'm concerned about the amount that you're raising versus the post-money valuation. It seems like you're diluting yourself significantly. Is there any reason to do that? Because typically that's not what we encourage founders to do, even though it might be in our immediate favor, but it's certainly not in the health of the company's long-term.
Actually, I got the same kind of feedback from my other peers. But I'm a research scientist. I don't focus too much about the what is happening, but I want to focus to move to the next step. Because if I block here, I'm not going to serve the community. That's one thing. The second thing, this is a kind of incentive I want to provide to bring the investors so that we can work together. The key thing is work together and bring to the market differently. And then whole community is going to benefit, not only me.
Naraj, do you have sensitivity and specificity or AUC for the model, like across the different, targets?
Yes, I do have, and I can provide maybe offline. But based on our initial one, because we have developed individual model and then we are bundling up, so we found around AUC 95%. But I can give specific details: how many samples we use, what is the AUC, what is the F1, all sorts of technical detail I can share.
Just one last comment. I don't think Dr. Miraj, I don't think you should take Rama's comment lightly. It's a very, very important one. And while I appreciate you wanting to incent investors to get involved at an early stage, this is a very long journey you're about to go on. And it's really important for you to have the right incentives in place and for you and your leadership team to have the right equity in the company, because dilution becomes a serious issue down the road. So just as a sidebar, happy to chat with you offline. I'm sure Rama and I can both talk you through kind of the economics, how this plays out down the road and why it's important for you to get the right valuation at this early stage.
Thank you. I'll consider this, and I really appreciate for this support.
Okay, awesome. As we start to, we'll wait for some questions from the audience. I think similar to Karima, my question was also in terms of, your validation and how strongly predictive your model is. If you use sort of publicly available data to train your model, we all know that publicly available data can sometimes be a bit questionable. And then my other question is, as a clinician, it's another test, another thing for us to look at. Do you look at sort of integrating with existing EMR systems? Who do you think are the clinicians that would really use this? Is it the folks who are looking at chest x-rays every day, or is it the folks who are maybe less used to reviewing lung disease? Maybe you could comment on a couple of those while we wait for the audience.
Yeah, so for the validation and deployment, the first step is we're going to use the retrospective data first of all. Let's say, for example, I got a collaboration in SickKids and I deployed this tool. So I'm going to go back historical data, 5 years, based on the, let's say, 6 year, and test those because their findings and their reports already there, and see how our tool is performing. And that will be another opportunity for us to fine tune. And then we're going to integrate with the healthcare system like the Epic or others, and then start going through in batches, like weekly basis or bi-weekly basis, and see how that is performing. So this is our strategy to go. And coming to your third question, definitely this is not going to replace. This is going to be as a co-pilot. Radiologists, clinicians, sometimes they, and I'm accepting every clinician, radiologist, they are expert. They have experience of 20, 30 years, but every day is different for a human being. So that is something which is going to help here. The other prospect is in remote areas. I was talking to a nurse in Alberta. She told that after X-ray, patients wait sometimes weeks and weeks to get the report because there is no special specialty available. So this will enhance and triage. And let's say someone is having, for God's sake, cancer, and he or she is waiting for weeks and weeks. So this is disaster. So this tool will at least triage him or her. Oh, no, you have to go rush to a specialist. So this is the whole concept that I'm going to bring here. Ultimately going to change, as I said, transform the healthcare, lung healthcare at the end.
Mm-hmm. Okay, excellent point. So I think we have a great question from Raed Musfi from the audience. Maybe you could describe your revenue. Again, we talked about who's the customer, how much are they spending on average, length of contract, competition, and doctors or consumers, who is the user? I think you touched on some of those points, but just
I touched on, but maybe I cannot go to at that granular level. How much the prescription, subscription, all sorts of things I can take offline. But those nitty gritty and the maybe I may not be comfortable to go now, but I can talk. If please feel free to. I'm available for any offline discussion and networking.
Okay, sounds good. So I think we're going to get 60 seconds on the clock here. Any final comments from the audience? Put them in the chat, or any remaining questions from our funders. I think this is a great, it's a great application of AI, obviously. We're looking at tons of imaging every day. Having a chance to not miss anything is always helpful. I think once you find the right clinician, the one who's really going to benefit most from this, it can really take off. Maybe, as you mentioned, in remote areas where they may not be as used to looking at some of these investigations. So
I would also encourage you, Maharaj, to think about, so are you a workflow tool? So are you going to be most useful as a rule out test for many things? Or are you sort of a clinical decision support tool? Right? Because if you're the latter, then you really need to think about sort of what decision am I helping, and is that really an unmet need? Like we mentioned, lung cancer, it's about characterizing indeterminate nodules. Pulmonary fibrosis is probably more about screening. COPD is probably more about exacerbation prediction, right? So those are different clinical decisions. So I would just encourage you to think about that a little bit more, about sort of, am I a workflow tool, am I a clinical decision support tool?
Okay, and I see the feedback form coming up here. So anyone in the audience who's interested, please fill out this form if you want to hear more about digibiomics. And without any further ado, we're going to get our deliberation. Okay, we're going to start with Bilal. Are you in or are you out?
I'm going to have to sit this one out. For me, the commercialization and go-to-market is incredibly important. So without a clear path to commercialization, I'm not sure how helpful I can be. However, I'm happy to chat offline to give you some direction and support you on that journey.
Okay, thank you for that. Becca, you're up next.
I think this one, I'm going to sit it out too, unfortunately. Love the life-saving nature of what you're doing. That very much resonates with our fund and our mission. However, I think it's a little bit early stage for me, and I'm a little bit concerned about some of the competitive companies that are also using AI to analyze medical imaging and are quite further ahead from a commercialization and product development perspective. But thank you so much.
Kareem.
I'm in. I'd like to learn more. I think, Murad, you're on something here, and I'd like to kind of understand the pathway, the development pathway.
Thank you.
You got one in. All right, and Rama.
We're in. We'd love to learn more and maybe see if we can help you with the valuation conversation, and then maybe finding a partner who can help you with the commercialization aspect.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic. 2 out of 4. Congratulations. That's amazing. And of course, from the audience, if anybody's interested in investing or learning more about digibiomics, hopefully you'll fill out that feedback form and more support coming your way. Congratulations, Dr. Khan, on all of your efforts and hard work. Amazing.
Thank you for everyone's time and appreciation and encouragement. I know I'm kind of early or having shortfalls in many aspects, but your encouragement is really mean to me, and your questions, your suggestions is really means a lot to me. And now I'm more confident that I can achieve this mission differently. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to bring up our next company, Ocare. That's Shazia Akbar, Dr. Akbar. Ocare AI is a B2B SaaS company that is transforming how dental care is practiced using imaging and AI. And today, oral diseases cost the US over $45 billion in productivity every year, and it affects almost every adult worldwide. So Ocare's mission is to really address this global crisis through early detection and treatment. So excited to hear your presentation, Dr. Akbar, and to hear about Ocare. Let's see.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. My name is Shazia. I am the founder of Ocare AI. And as was just mentioned, we are interested in reducing the rates of oral disease worldwide using imaging and AI. I myself have a PhD and 2 postdocs in machine learning and applying it to the healthcare space. And I left the academic space about 5 years ago to build the same technology for the industry. And now we started up OCare to really help the dental space here. Now, when we talk about oral diseases, we're really talking about multiple types of diseases here, from oral cancer to gum disease to dental caries and so on. And what's incredible about this space is there's very little technology that allows us to do prevention in this space. In other spaces like cancer, we have screening tools. We do not have the same in the dental space. So at OCare, what we're doing is building technology for dental clinics to detect early signs of oral diseases. So let's take gum disease, for instance. Every one of us on this call will be affected by gum disease at some point in our life. That's the stats. Some of us will be treated earlier and therefore won't feel the impacts of that treatment as much as some of us on the call that will treat it a little bit later and might even need surgical intervention. So for those of you who are afraid of your dentist, you might want to look away, but this is a dental probing tool. It's a tool that is used by your dentist today to detect how good your gum tissue is. And basically, it's a probing tool that allows you to probe your gum tissue. And they do it 6 times for every single tooth at a minimum and note it down on a chart. Now, at OCare, we're trying to replace that probe with this instead, a photographic image. And you can use your smartphone camera, you can use a DSLR camera, or you can even use a specialized intraoral camera, which most of your dentists will have. So the idea is that when you're at your dentist, your hygienist or your dentist will take photographs of your teeth and gum tissue, and our platform will allow them to detect those early signs and make a different treatment option right there and then when you're at your dentist. So we're about to play a video, and as you're watching this video, I want you to imagine that you are that dentist hygienist. You have a patient that's came in, they're sitting in the chair. With the additional information from this video, what could you offer them differently? How would you treat that patient differently? So can we play that video, please?
Our patient, Sarah, has visited the clinic before, so we can look up her previous record. Workflow summarizes Sarah's oral health status and allows us to jump to her last visit. For now, we'll upload a photo taken in the dental chair today. Workflow automatically analyzes the photograph and identifies any signs of periodontal disease. It also provides a breakdown of Sarah's staining score and oral health, which will be stored for her next visit. We can even compare this photo to Sarah's last visit, giving her a clear before and after picture. Try out OCare Workflow today and discover what it can do for your clinic. Sarah has visited the clinic before.
All right, so that tells you what's in our platform today. We are actually working on the one to replace the dental probe. So that will become available in our tool in the near future. We are raising our pre-seed round at the moment to finish that development, to get a couple of patents in place as well, and to hire some key team members to help us grow out the product. And we've been extremely lucky to get some grants as well to help us along the way. So those will also factor in. And I am more than happy to answer any questions at this stage.
Amazing. Thank you, Dr. Akbar, for that excellent presentation. And I think we've all been there in the dentist before where they take those measurements and it's, millimeters level of precision, and it's a different measure each time. And you really wonder if that's accurate. So I definitely see it. Okay, so our funders, do we have questions from the funders?
I have a question. Well, first of all, I want to say I think this is really cool what you're doing. There seems to be a lack of innovation in the dental market for whatever reason. So I'm glad that you're pursuing that market and bringing some much needed innovation and change. I was curious. I noticed in the deck there was mention of this tool being able to increase dental practice revenue to like an additional $7,800 a month. Mm-hmm. Can you just expand on that, please?
Absolutely. Yes, there was a study done in the States where they gave dental clinics who did not have a camera or equipment to take photographs, an actual intraoral camera, and they started taking those. And they found that those clinics increased their revenue on average by $7,800. And the bulk of that revenue actually came from a 30% increase in case acceptance rates. Basically, if you're showing your patient what's going on in a photograph, they're more likely to accept the treatment that you're offering and actually get more revenue into the clinic. Better treatment for patient does actually bring in more revenue for the clinics. And that's actually without the dental probe, by the way, the dental probing algorithm. This will add even more benefits, including time saver. You don't need to do this anymore. It's just a quick scan, as well as cost and more accurate readings and measurements.
Fantastic. Other questions?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Akbar. One of the things we look for in our fund is how you're able to impact folks that are marginalized or underserved.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a focus on how you make more money for the dentist, but how are you going to reach communities that need this the most?
Yeah, and this is really close to my heart, actually. I would love to reach those Indigenous community, rural communities, villages in third world countries. I would love to reach those places. So initially, our aim is to get some revenue in from the dental clinics, from the dental consumer market, from perhaps even the pharmaceutical market, which I'm happy to talk about. But we will actually actively do outreach programs. We've talked to dentists that go up north, that go down to the States as well, that work in these really rural communities where they don't have access to clean water. There's heavy smokers. There's a lack of education around dental care. And we will help them to give them access to our products for free to be able to offer those services for free to those communities.
Amazing. Great mission and great execution. Bilal, Kareem, anyone else?
Yeah, I'm happy to chime in. Dr. Akbar, first of all, congratulations on taking the entrepreneurial plunge. I've looked at your background. It's very impressive. You are a very talented individual, and I'm glad to see you putting that to something commercial. So first of all, I love the space you're playing in large part because there's few regulatory hurdles. It's a highly it plays in the private sector outside of government kind of funding in a large part. My question, I guess, is twofold. One is, in your video, it looked like it was a workflow tool, but when I was reading through your deck and looking at your background, it seems like an imaging technology. And I'm trying to understand, like, what exactly, like, is your value proposition kind of a workflow and like a whole back end tied to that, or is it actually something proprietary tied to the imaging and the models that you have that can analyze that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's an absolutely amazing question. So it's the latter here. Our specialty is in the imaging technology. But in order for the dental clinics to be able to access that and to actually bring them into this, new concept of using prevention and using these tools, we really do need to integrate into their workflow. So we're looking at PMS integration. We're looking at how does this work when a patient comes in? What do I do? We don't want to have to train people how to do that. We want them to be this process to be as seamless as possible. And that's why we have this workflow. But essentially inside the workflow, you'll find there's very little in terms of calendars or appointment scheduling. We're not going to touch that at all. We're going to allow other people to work on that and just simply integrate into those types of software.
Great. Yeah, I think that integration is going to be critically important. One follow-on question.
Yeah.
You talked about 86K in projected revenue. Do you have any current revenue? Are you live in any dental clinics? Are you getting paid for this product yet?
So we have 2 ongoing clinical partnerships. They are testing the product right now. They're utilizing it on their daily basis. We do not have paid revenue coming in at the moment. That will come later this year once we get one of these tools in. We've talked about partnering with one of the PMS systems to enable that and enable the marketing for there. We've also been in discussions with, I'm not going to mention them, but big dental consumer goods. I'm happy to talk about it offline, who want to use it as a whitening product recommendation, actually. So that the one algorithm that scores the color of the teeth, they would be interested in that specific technology.
Yeah, I can see that.
And can you talk a little bit about the feedback that you're getting from the 2 clinical partnerships that are currently ongoing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've given us amazing feedback regarding how they would utilize the tool. So for instance, we had one dentist that uploaded all of his photographs, hundreds and hundreds at the end of the day, whereas someone else would have done it whilst they were seeing their patient. So there's different workflows for each of the dentists there that we've had to adapt and adjust to. And we've seen that, the reason we really want to get the dental probing in first before we go heavy on marketing is because this is a selling point for them. If they can visually see how something is going to replace one of the things they're doing at the moment, they can see much more value in that, and they would pay literally thousands of dollars. We've had this set up, so we'll pay thousands of dollars for this. Whereas the prevention is more research based at the moment. It's not quite within the regular dental practice, so that's a little bit harder to swallow.
I'm a little disappointed that Bilal didn't offer to refresh the employee option pool yet. So I'm gonna but actually I looked at dental monitoring about 10 years ago. And I kind of brushed it off, to be honest, when I was at Dentsply. And then we spoke to them last year and they're just crushing it. So this space is like, I'm pretty bullish on the space in general. So I think this is a great area. Can you just give me a sense of how you're different than dental monitoring? Because now they've grown into behemoth, and Grin is another one I'm familiar with. They seem to be mostly tracking like whitening and orthodontia. So how are you different than them?
So you kind of touched on it a little bit. They're kind of focused on the orthodontic space at the moment, and that's where a lot of their products are kind of geared towards that space. Whereas we're really looking at, gum health, oral health. So actually more towards the periodontal space than it is the orthodontic space. And we really do want to pinpoint that we're looking at prognosis prevention. So today we might be, doing this automatic charting, but what if I could predict what your next perio charting will look like and what steps I could take to make your next charting even better? So we're really working on the prognosis space as well, which is not what a lot of the other dentists are doing. And a lot of the other dental companies are doing in that space.
Are they are they also sort of, are you looking to improve like chair time, or sort of will that, I understand sort of you're projecting increased revenue for the practice, but that actually translate when they use your tool versus not using your tool?
Yeah, so the dental probing is definitely to reduce the chair time 100%. We've had dentists ask for it specifically, which is why we went down that route specifically as well. They want to see that's their number one thing they want to see. How do I get less time of people in the chair? How do I increase my revenue? That's the two things they care about most when it comes to the clinics. They need to keep it running. They're a business as well. So yeah, 100%.
Okay, fantastic. We'll start to get some questions from the audience. In the meantime, I think this is really impressive, amazing mission, very good presentation. And I think you answered my main question of, what is the incentive for the dentist to implement something like this? But it sounds like, there's a revenue incentive on top of the good health. I'm curious, the barrier to entry in terms of logistically for a dental clinic to start using this, what does that sort of involve? Does it, again, integrate with their existing systems, or maybe you could talk to us about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I touched on this a little bit. They already have their PMS system. So our idea is to integrate with their PMS. So that's the system they use to do their appointment booking and put patient information in there. So we intend to integrate with that. And one of the ways we're thinking about go-to-market is through DSOs, dental service organizations. So one dental service organization will be connected to many, many clinics. So if we get one, we get automatically hundreds of clinics attached to that one DSO. And in America, I think 45% of clinics are attached to the DSO. So it makes sense for us to go down that route there. And yeah, because there's less regulation, they sign up. They don't need to go through any formal process. They just sign up for a software. Which is the great part about the dental space, much less red tape compared to the other healthcare spaces.
Fantastic. And what made you jump into the entrepreneurial space after being in academia for so long?
I just enjoyed it a lot more. I enjoy putting on a lot of different hats. I enjoy the process of building a product from scratch, and all the different people that bring about that process as well. I've always been a problem solver. Even in academia, I loved a good problem solving task. So that's kind of came to my benefit at this stage in my life.
Amazing. Well, I think you're going to be well supported here. I predict a lot of good things in your future, I hope. And maybe one day I'll be seeing O'Care at the dental clinic myself.
I would love that. Love that.
Okay, I don't think we have any questions from the audience at the moment. So I think we'll go straight into our countdown timer. And we'll start to see from the funders what the deliberation is like. I predict, I mean, it sounds like an excellent company, a very highly qualified founder. We have a lot of positive feedback as well from the clinics themselves. So we'll see. What do you guys think? Any final questions or any comments from the funders? Leaving us in suspense.
Can you expand on the patents that you mentioned you were planning to file?
Yeah, so some of the tools that we anticipate we'll be using to join some of the customers. So the whitening algorithm itself and plugging it into some sort of API or app is one of them. And then the second one is around the probing, the perio charting tool as well. So that's the two we're really focusing on at the moment because we know they'll drive in revenue. And then we'll expand as we grow. We'll hopefully have our own R&D team at some point, which is just constantly innovating all the time in this space. Oral disease is linked to many other systemic health issues like diabetes. Premature births is linked to heart disease. So, maybe in 5 to 10 years, this product will look different because we're using it for different purposes.
That's a great point. And I think we have our feedback form on the screen at the moment. Anyone in the audience, if you're interested in learning more about O'Care AI or interested in investing, please click that form and fill it out and get in touch with Dr. Akbar. Okay, the moment we've been waiting for has come. We're ready to hear from the funders. Okay, Bilal, start us off.
I'm in 100%. I'm super excited about what you're building. I love the intersection between your kind of subject matter expertise and your core competency and the application that you're solving. I think it's a great fit. I also think that the market is ripe for an opportunity like this, in large part because you mentioned the DSOs. There's a lot of private equity firms that are rolling up large amounts of dental clinics, $600 a month. Is a massive, massive uptick in valuation on EBITDA at the end of the day. So when you own one clinic, maybe it's like, okay, whatever. But when you own 500 or you own 50 or you own whatever, it becomes huge. I'd love to learn more about what makes this proprietary. So we're going to chat about that offline. Absolutely. I have a friend who is rolling up a ton of dental clinics in Florida. And like dozens. So I'd love to get you in front of him and let's validate some of this technology. So
that sounds great. Honestly, the dental equity space, I would love to have a contact inside there. So if anyone does, I would love to chat with you. It would be great.
Yeah, let's do that.
Amazing. Becca, tell us what you think.
Yeah, I'm in too. I think the technology sounds really exciting and novel. I liked that it's, a relatively untapped market and that there's a clear value proposition to your end customer. I think for me, like where it would be great to learn more is, our bar is life-saving impact. And I understand the link between oral health and systemic health, but we'd love to explore especially the link between oral health and preterm birth. That's an area we care a lot about. So we can take all of that offline, but excited to learn more.
Amazing. Certainly in heart surgery, we see a lot of dental disease that leads to very sick patients and heart infections. So maybe there's an area of collaboration there as well.
Amazing.
Okay, Kareem, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd say I'm in as well. I would love to learn more. I don't want this to be another dental monitoring on my track record, but I think it's an exciting space. I agree. Sort of remote monitoring for dental patients, it actually improves kind of access to oral care, which I think is really important. And then finally, I'd say that I think the key here is just showing like good case studies, good use cases with existing customers, and you can build traction pretty quickly in the space.
Amazing. Okay, Rama, take it away. Is it going to be a clean sweep?
It sure will. I am very impressed with your presentation, Dr. Akbar. I think one of the things we look for at this early stage is the charisma that the founder has, their capabilities in articulating themselves, and their ability to look for solutions when there's a dead end somewhere and you come across as someone who is quite capable, very impressive. We will ask you to think deeper about starting on impact from day one and not leaving it as an after I make money, and certainly not making it as an all money or no money, but rather how can we have a financial model that will support the bottom of the pyramid, but still give us, the sustainability that we'd like to see. There are over 100 million refugees, many of whom have this issue. So think big when you're considering those that are marginalized.
I would love to have that conversation with you. Absolutely love to.
Great.
This is incredible. Clean sweep and lots of enthusiasm all around. I'm sure you'll be getting a lot of messages offline as well. Congratulations, Dr. Akbar.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your time and for coming in and logging in and coming to see all of us. We love talking about our businesses, but getting people to listen to us is the hard part.
I think you have a very captivated audience, so congratulations. Okay, before we join our next company on stage, I'd actually like to tell you a little bit about the next episode coming up on MAXPitch. So we're very excited by the audience's enthusiasm so far. And for our future episodes, if you're interested in being a funder or founder, you can go to onemax.org/MERN and fill out the form. That's onemax.org/MIRN. Or email nadeem.ahmed@maxgala.com. And I think we'll drop those both into the chat as well. And for our sneak preview of the next episode in October, if we can run through the logos again there on the screen, we have, first of all, Lightspace. So Lightspace is your all-in-one platform for fostering team connection, alignment, building engaging, inclusive work environments. We have Go Meat, which will help you discover the best halal and kosher meat options near you, and it provides same-day delivery to your doorstep. Economy is shifting the world away from interest-bearing loans to asset-backed leases for car leasing and ownership. And last but not least, we have Cricket X for all of the cricket fans out there. It's an app that helps you, as a cricketer, improve your game using AI technology. So we'll see you on the next one. And don't forget to share this with your colleagues and your networks. But before we continue, I'd like to welcome our next company to the stage. And Tabiat is revolutionizing health monitoring and proactive care at home by leveraging AI and passive sensing to predict health changes before they happen. So their cutting-edge platform delivers clinically relevant insights to prevent readmissions and reduce acute events, potentially saving hospitals $383 billion annually. So Tabiat AI, let's hear from Dr. Lekhat.
Thank you. And I'm excited to be following up such an amazing panel so far. And I'll touch on a lot of the points, especially that we talked about in some of the discussions with the other founders. So I'd like to get started and share with you how we're building proactive care at Tabiat. And I'd like to start by introducing you to Jill, who's a 65-year-old retired teacher, and she has a chronic lung disease called COPD, which means she always has this coughing, wheezing, difficulty breathing. And when she was diagnosed with it 3 years ago, her doctor told her that this is a chronic and progressive disease. That means she's going to have it for the rest of her life, and it's going to get worse over time. So recently, Jill woke up in the middle of the night with a really bad coughing and wheezing fit, and she could hardly breathe. She took her emergency inhaler, but it didn't help, so she called 911 and she was taken to the hospital. The doctor told her that she's having an exacerbation of COPD, so she was admitted for 7 days. And when she was discharged, doctors told her she's highly likely to have another exacerbation. So now she goes home, she's incredibly stressed. She doesn't know what caused that first exacerbation. She doesn't know when she'll have another one, if she'll be able to figure out she's having one. And if she does start having one, what can she do to minimize or prevent it? On top of that, she has to manage a new suite of medication. She has to manage her home oxygen, her follow-up appointments, and understandably during this incredibly stressful time, she doesn't realize that she's actually having another exacerbation. She ends up back in the hospital, and this time she's much worse than before. And so this is not a unique story. There's about 16 million Americans that have COPD like Jill. And when a COPD patient is admitted with an exacerbation and discharged, they have about a 25% chance of being readmitted within just 30 days. So this is terrible for people's health. It's also really expensive. It's about $15 billion per year. And so what we've built to address this is the world's best turnkey COPD discharge program. So now when Jill is discharged, she's enrolled into our program. She gets access to our mobile app and our Tablet kit, where she can track and manage her symptoms. She gets access to educational material, her action plan, and she also gets access to our team of Tablet nurses who are helping transition Jill back to the home, helping her understand how her symptoms are changing over time. And our nurses can even coordinate their care through our dashboard with Jill's own doctor. And so the reason we know this is one of the best programs out there is I actually did my PhD on this subject. So I did my PhD from the University of Toronto, where I was using mobile and wearable technology along with AI to understand and predict changes in COPD patients' health. I worked really closely with a lot of the major hospitals here to actually deploy pilots, and we also work really closely with the digital health lab at Samsung. My co-founder, Salar, is currently wrapping up his PhD from the University of Toronto, where he's using this type of data that we've collected to predict how COPD patients will change in the future. And so during our research, we've actually done quite a few pilots across 5 hospitals here in Toronto, including a pilot that was funded by Samsung. And there were 2 things that we really focused on. The first was patient adherence. And what we found is in our longest pilot, which was about 6 months, we had 93% patient adherence rates, which is really unheard of in this digital health space. The second thing we focused on is how we can use the data we collect from this program to feed our AI models. So we've already developed patent pending respiratory rate, as well as a novel architecture for AI model development in this type of environment. We have our own cough detection models, and we've even proven out some initial models that can predict future hospitalization in these patients. And so over the last year or so that I've switched full-time to this, we've started gaining momentum with US hospitals. We have our first commercial contract that we expect to launch later this year, and we've got a healthy pipeline of hospitals following that. And what the revenue model here is really simple. We view this as a true partnership with the hospitals that we work with. So the program itself is funded by existing billing codes, and any of the revenue that comes in gets split between us and the hospital. The hospital in turn is actually able to provide a new free service to their high-risk patients. And so this really is a win-win-win for all 3 of us. And we're only just starting with COPD. So the core idea here is that if we connect patients and their providers and give them the tools they need to manage and understand their disease better at these really vulnerable times, we can actually prevent a lot of readmissions and at times even first hospitalizations. So the next thing that we'll be focusing on after COPD is monitoring how people are recovering after radiation therapy for lung cancer. So with this strategy of niche it to win it, we've identified a really specific type of hospital that we'll be targeting first. And that's about $1.1 billion opportunity for us. When we expand this to all of COPD, that's about $15 billion. And then that $380 billion mentioned in the beginning is when we expand this to all readmissions for chronic illnesses. And so where we are now, we will be raising a round in fall of this year. The target there is to get to 2.5 million ARR in the next year and a half. We'll also be expanding our sales motion to include private practices and medical groups in addition to hospitals. And then we're going to start building out that radiation therapy program. So if you're interested in learning more about the round, or if you know any doctors who work with COPD, I'd love to talk.
Fantastic. And I can certainly attest that Jill is not one, but many patients I've personally seen and taken care of before. So it's a big issue, and it's so exciting to see that you're going to expand to other chronic illnesses that have frequent hospitalization, because our aging population is certainly increasing that group substantially. So let's hear from the funders. What do we think? Questions, comments?
Sure, I'd like to start. Fantastic presentation, well done, and it was very clear. I'd love to know who's paying for the device.
Yep. So the device, we initially pay out of pocket, but we've looked at this space really closely. One of the biggest downfalls for other companies has been the time to recuperate the cost of the device. We have a fairly low cost device, and we actually recuperate the cost by the second month. So it's about a $50 device, and then the insurance billing codes that fund this long-term make up that cost pretty quickly.
And what does the patient need to know to be able to operate it, and who's providing that care to support them?
Yep. So again, we've been working with these patients. In our pilots, the average age was about 69 years old. So we built the app in a way that they can actually use it. And then our team of nurses is also really critical there. So they help train the patients in the beginning on how to use the app and how to use the sensor that we send them as well. And then the workflow within the app is really simple for them to use as well.
And I have one last question. Speaking of workflow, how does it change the workflow of the nurses and the caretakers, the providers?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the things we realized early on is when we tried to offer this without our nursing team, the biggest concern was hospitals would say, we don't have the staff to man a program like this. So that's why we introduced our nursing team, and it's really our nursing team that's going to be managing most of the day-to-day care. So any questions, minor questions that the patients have, our nursing team can take care of. And then they create an escalation if it's needed that goes back up to the doctor at the hospital. And at that point, the doctor can do whatever they need to do from their EHR system.
Great, thank you.
I think the COPD is fascinating. I agree with you. Like, it's a huge problem. I think you mentioned 25% readmission within 30 days. It's actually like 45% within 90 days. So it's a big issue. Your sensor, is it measuring anything proprietary outside of sort of like the regular vitals or like cough acoustics, anything like that?
It is. So that's going to be a much deeper question because we have a very strong hypothesis of where this needs to be in the future. And that gets back to our AI background as well, where we use wearable devices. That's commercial off-the-shelf devices. And we collect a lot of the sensor data that's on those, like a smartwatch, for example. And we have our own proprietary models for extracting coughing from that sensor stream, as well as respiratory rate. We're starting to look at speech analytics. And the idea there would be completely passively predict who's going to have an exacerbation. So that's not where we are today. The way the program works today is just a standard off-the-shelf oximeter that's connected to their phone. But that's necessary in order to build all the infrastructure around it. And then we're building those AI models in the background that will actually then get deployed into our own program. So we're going to control that whole top to bottom workflow there.
And my understanding is that a lot of hospitals do have sort of readmission reduction programs specifically around COPD. So how do you fit within the paradigm of sort of solution providers they're interacting with currently?
They do. So especially a lot of the larger hospitals, they will have these programs. And I will say that about more than 50% of the hospitals that I've talked to, they had these types of programs in the past. So oftentimes these programs are launched as a research initiative or a QI initiative. They show that they have some impact, but ultimately it's really difficult to maintain the budget to actually keep funding this program long term. So most of the hospitals I talked to actually used to have programs and now they're not running them anymore. That's more true when you get into the mid and smaller sized hospitals, and that's really what we're targeting. So that ICP hospital that I mentioned, those are rural critical access hospitals at times that don't really have the resources to run a program like this. And when we start working with them, we provide them a completely turnkey program that has all the processes, protocols in place already, and we provide the staff that'll actually do most of the work for them.
Got it.
Go ahead.
I was hoping you could discuss the billing codes in a little bit more detail. I know you said you have some initial pilots in place, but curious if you have experience kind of billing and successfully receiving reimbursement under some of those billing codes. We certainly have portfolio companies that have gotten tripped up. In many cases, even though those codes exist, you can't reliably receive reimbursement. So just curious if you've encountered that, if you've worked through that.
Yeah, and that's something that we're excited to get this first hospital in the US launched later this year. We do have the billing workflow largely figured out from our side. So we think we have it figured out so far. We'll see what happens when we deploy. But we have a billing partner who's able to process and submit these claims on our behalf. At times we'll use them, but some hospitals want to manage billing themselves. So we generate a billing report that the hospital can submit through their typical, their workflow. So we do have the tracking for these billing codes. The billing codes themselves you might have come across them, but they're the standard remote patient monitoring codes. So it's 16 data points uploaded in a given month, and then 20 minutes of call time with the care provider. So that actually is what we're tracking, and then we can submit the claim either to the hospital or over to the insurance company through our billing provider.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Like, what level of interaction and engagement is required on a patient basis in order to successfully bill? And 16 interactions in a month is a lot. How do you plan to kind of drive that level of engagement?
That's a really good question. And that's, so I mentioned we've done a whole bunch of pilots, and I will tell you the first pilot, patients did not use the program at all. So that's what we took a look at first, is we started talking to the patients, understanding why aren't they using it? What would they want to see in an application like this? And it was even like really minor things, like patients would tell us that they care about air quality index, and before they go outside to go get groceries, they're going to check air quality, and if it's bad, they're not going to go today. So we built that into the app. That's another thing that they can now access through the app. And so everything in this app, what's different from a lot of other remote patient monitoring programs, it's all very specific to their COPD. So that, plus the fact that we have the nursing team who actually calls them once a week and builds it's the same nurse that calls the patient every time. So they build an actual relationship with that patient, and they try to convey to the patients that somebody is out there caring about them, and somebody's looking after them. So that relationship also plays a pretty big factor in motivating patients to keep using the program.
Okay, Danielle, great presentation. My questions are a little bit different, actually. So I'm trying to wrap my head around how two comp sci PhDs from the University of Toronto decided to solve this particular problem in healthcare, as opposed to, I'm sure, the world of kind of data or software technology solutions you'd have. And then I have a follow-on question. So maybe you can answer that.
So there's two parts to that. One is we were kind of pushed into it. The second is we learned really quickly. So I started off trying to build just that AI aspect of, can we give COPD patients wearables and use the wearable sensor data to predict how they're going to change in the future? And patients would not use it. Like, we would give them the wearables, but they just wouldn't use it. So we started solving this adherence piece, and then we came up with those features that help them understand and manage their COPD. We built in a patient coordinator who would help monitor them. And then what we realized is we have a program that is actually COPD patients want to use, and it's something that could actually benefit them. So we were pushed in that direction. And then when COVID came along, we realized we have a program that can be used to remotely monitor patients. And that's where 5 of the Toronto hospitals started using this to monitor patients that were sent home positive with COVID. And that's where we got that experience of how do we actually sell into hospitals? How do we figure out all of the security, privacy, ethics, all of those protocols? I was in charge for managing most of those. So we gained that experience, and that's largely, now we found the billing codes in the US, which is why we shifted there. And that's what my last year has looked like.
Serendipity. I love it. Okay. My follow-on question is, you mentioned you're at 3 of the kind of 5 hospitals in Canada. You're running pilots with them. You just mentioned you'll be onboarding a US hospital later on this year. Like, how are you winning these contracts? Like, how are you getting in? Those are very challenging, complicated, kind of like loosely defined sales processes. So I'd just love to hear like how you're navigating that.
Yeah. And so we really came into this from a scientific background, and because my PhD was on this area, I was already familiar with a lot of the conferences in the respiratory space. So I'd also been going to them during my PhD, presenting research at them. So I understood how they kind of worked. And for the last few years, I've been attending them from the startup's perspective and building out these relationships with a lot of the pulmonologists across the US. So what typically happens is I talk to these pulmonologists. They love the program. They want to either share their experiences with the programs that they've tried to build in the past and what has worked, what hasn't. So we've refined the program a lot during that time, but it also leads to a lot more contacts from a sales perspective. And so it is a challenging sale. One thing we realized as an early stage startup is it takes a lot of time to land these contracts. I think industry standard is about 18 months. We're hoping to close our first hospital within 12 months. But we also realize we need to be much faster than that, which is why we're now starting to look at private practices as well, medical groups, as well as these private equity roll-ups, and seeing what we can do to get these contracts closed faster.
Are these primarily research engagements that you have with the hospitals? Like it's on a trial basis?
So the pilots that I mentioned, those were pilots run during my PhD. Those have all concluded, but those were research. So those were funded by government grants as well as industry partners.
Great.
Remote patient monitoring is an exciting space, but it's also a very competitive space. So can you talk a little bit about the landscape specifically within COPD and what you see as your key differentiators?
Yeah, that's a good point. And there, I mean, one of the other things is there are a lot of tombstones in the RPM space as well. So we've learned a lot from them. And in the current sort of offerings, I really see two types of RPM solutions. One is like a really generic, we will monitor all diseases. We will send patients like 5 different devices and expect patients to use them, right? So Jill is not going to be able to use that as a solution. The other end of that is typically, especially in the COPD space, there's people that are building wearables that can sense different things. So smart rings, different sort of armbands, wrist-worn devices, and then they build an RPM offering around their physical hardware. So again, it's hard for hardware companies to build good software, and they're always going to be focused on advancing their hardware rather than what is it going to take to actually bring these patients and hospitals together and work together to solve this problem. So that's where we fit in right in the middle there.
Very impressive. Congratulations. And it's certainly a big issue, repeat hospitalizations. So exciting to see this move forward. Have you seen, I mean, you've obviously done the background in terms of how predictive your tool is at actually seeing what hospitalizations recur. Could you tell us a little bit about that, how the predictive value of the models that you're using?
Yeah, absolutely. So the predictive model we talked a little bit less about just because that's much more earlier stage. But we have seen preliminary results on, actually, I believe this was during the COVID cohort, which was about 200 patients. But with some degree of accuracy, we were able to predict who is going to be hospitalized. So that does give us confidence that with 1,000 or so patients, we can build really accurate models. The models that are already published and more well-defined are about how we can extract relevant sensor data from COPD patients. So respiratory rate prediction on COPD patients, as well as cough detection on COPD patients is what we've published.
Okay.
How early were those models? So like how long before an exacerbation or readmission would occur? Are you able to?
So that was 2 days in advance is what we typically look for.
Very good. Okay, so we're going to get 60 seconds on the clock and address some audience questions while we're at it. So question, how do you define adherence by the patients? And again, as always, we like to know, how does this integrate with existing EHR systems?
Yep. So adherence is defined by the billing codes. So if the patient meets that 16 data points in a month, we call that a successful month. And that's the 93% number that we saw over a 6-month period. And so with and EHR integrations, that's something that we're looking at. We have a standalone dashboard for now, but we have looked at some of these open standards, and we're talking to the hospitals in our pipeline to figure out what EHR systems we use, and those are the integrations that we're going to build out first.
Okay, fantastic. And have you heard from patients how they feel about using this? Does it help them from their perspective? I'd love to hear about that as well.
Yeah, so that's one of the biggest things, and it's really rewarding to see as well, but it's more from a qualitative perspective. Patients talk about feeling this reassurance and improved quality of life, knowing that they're being looked after. And so it gives them confidence to do things that they might not have otherwise had to do.
Excellent. Okay, for the audience, the feedback form is up, so please fill it out if you want to hear more about Tablet AI or to invest. And for the funders, I mean, he's literally done his PhD on this, so I think it's pretty exciting where this is going. Looking forward to hearing. We'll start with Bilal. Are you in or are you out?
We gotta switch this up a little bit. I need to hear from the other founders, other investors too. Look, I am such a sucker for smart, capable, talented people, and clearly, like Danielle, you know your stuff. You know way more about this than I do, so I want to learn from you, and I'd love to learn a little bit more about this. So yes, I'm in, with the caveat that this is such a hard problem you're solving. Like, you know, there's so many. You're climbing a mountain, and you know, I want to invest because I believe in you guys. So I'd love to learn more.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Becca.
I think this is going to be a no from my end. I think you're super knowledgeable, passionate entrepreneur, and love the kind of differentiation in the models that you're building. But I know the challenges of effectively penetrating the hospital market in the U.S. and scaling, especially amid such a large amount of competitors. So it'll be a no for me for now, but again, wish you all the best.
Thank you.
All right, not this time, but maybe the next one. Kareem, what do you think?
Yeah, look, I think the COPD space is long overdue for their version of the Holter monitor, right? And I do think there's a huge opportunity for proprietary sensing tools and algorithms to reduce readmission. I think right now it's a high touch process with like the nurse stay on top of you for the first 7 days. You have to do a follow-up appointment with the pulmonologist within 14 days. And that's how hospitals are successfully reducing readmission for COPD. For me, it's unfortunately, well, it's a yes and a no. It's a no for the fund. I think for our fund, our thesis is there has to be proprietary sort of RPM solutions. We don't like to get into sort of the generic ones. But for me, as a personal investor, I'm pretty bullish on the space. I think I hear the promise of sort of eventually coming out with your own sensing algorithm. So I'd like to learn more for my personal portfolio. So I'd love to do a follow-up and just hear a little bit more about it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Nice. We'll still count that one as a win, I think.
Yeah.
All right, Rama.
Yeah, thank you so much for an almost flawless presentation and answers. And I really feel strongly about technologies that are making it easier for the patient. And I feel that's what you're doing. And I also appreciate the human in the loop factor with your nursing team, because a lot of people are really suffering from that, being thrown in and out of hospitals without a high touch. So I think it's a yes, and we'd love to evaluate more with you to see the probability of this succeeding in the US market. So keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Congratulations to you and your partner who's almost done as well. And exciting to see this roll out in the near future.
Absolutely. Thank you all for your questions and your time.
Thanks for being on the show. Okay, I mean, it's been a fantastic show. I'd really like to thank the audience for your engagement, your feedback, your incredible support. We'd like to give a huge thank you to the founders who have worked tirelessly to make this, make their projects come to life. And you can really see the passion, the enthusiasm, and how these kinds of technologies are really going to change and shape our future in the health space. And last but not least, our incredible funders. I'm very humbled to be on the panel with you folks today. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule and to fund some of these exciting projects. And last but not least, I do have to give a plug for our next episode of MAXPitch. So if you're interested in being a founder or funder, once again, please go to onemax.org/MIRN and fill out the form. Or you can email nadeem.ahmed@maxgala.com. And I think that will be posted in the chat as well for convenience. And of course, a sneak preview for the next episode. We have a number of exciting companies for you today. We'll roll through the logos again so you can take a look. First up, we have Lightspace. It's your all-in-one platform for fostering team connection, alignment, building engaging, inclusive work environments. We have Go Meat, which is helping you to discover the best halal and kosher meat, food, and grocery stores near you. Go Meat is actually providing same-day delivery to your doorstep from your favorite local providers. Economy is shifting the world away from interest-bearing loans to asset-backed leases for car leasing and ownership. And CricketX is our app for our cricket fans that helps use AI to improve your game. And once again, thank you to CYA. Thank you to the founders, funders, and the audience. And we look forward to seeing you on the next one.
Thanks all. Great presentations.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.